Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Tuesday. It is 4 p.m. ET, and that means it is crime time here on A Mighty Blaze. And we are so thrilled to have you with us today. I'm Hank Phillippi Ryan, your host. I'm the author of 13 best-selling novels, including the newest one, Her Perfect Life, which is out right now in paperback. And I'm going to take a moment today to show you what's about to happen tomorrow. This is my book that's coming out next February, The House Guest. And as you can see, this cover is not very fancy. This is what they call the advance bound manuscript for the earliest of readers. But tomorrow we will be revealing the cover of The House Guest. And if you'd like to help me reveal it, just leave a comment in the comments is where you leave the comments. Leave a comment in the comments and I will contact you and give you all the details of how to help me reveal the cover of The House Guest to the world. It is so exciting. I am thrilled about that. And talk about being excited and thrilled. Oh my golly, you know we here at A Mighty Blaze and Crime Time love debuts. And look what we have for you today. We have the fabulous debut, Pay Dirt Road by Samantha Jayne Allen. And you can tell that I've read it because it's all the pages are all frazzled, but it is a marvelous book, and we welcome you, Sam, today. Let me just tell you very, very quickly before I let Sam talk. You're like, let Sam talk. I know. But Pay Dirt Road was out last week to incredible acclaim. Listen to this starred review from Booklist. It says, the Texas landscape, with its falling apart houses and bedraggled bars, comes alive in this remarkable new novel, reminiscent of Larry McMurtry's The Last Picture Show. I mean, if they didn't have you at Remarkable, Sam, they must have had you at The Last Picture Show and Larry McMurtry. What did you think when you read that review?
Oh, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I was so excited. The Last Picture Show is one of my favorite books and also favorite movies, so it was really exciting to see that. I was so flattered.
What did you think about that comparison, the Texas and the coming of age and all that sort of evocativeness of young people trying to figure out what to do? Did that ring true to you? It must have. That's what Pay Dirt Road is about.
Yeah, that definitely rang true for me, and it's so exciting when you're aiming for something and you get that validation of people, readers who appreciate what you're trying to do. And so it was really cool. That is what I was going for, that kind of that tension of being young and coming of age, and especially in a place that is kind of a pressure cooker for gossip and drama, like in Larry McMurtry's early novels. They were big inspiration for me.
And it's wonderful because the way you describe it as a pressure cooker is so perfect, especially that sort of from the outside, it doesn't look like that. From the outside, your town looks like a hard scrabble little town, but the people who live in the town see it in a very different way and experience in a different way. Was that fun for you to delve into?
Oh yes, it was. I think that uh, small town settings really as a setting lend themselves well in murder mysteries. Everybody knows each other or kind of knows of each other, and it's fun to have the tension just be right there. There's a lot to explore as a writer.
Exactly. Well, I want to talk to you more about that, but I see Shannon and Vicky Gregory saying, "Wow, what a review!" And Shannon Hansen is here, and Judy Morris, and so many. And Phyllis is here saying, "New author, yay!" Yes, indeed. You know we love debut authors here at Crime Time, and we welcome you, Sam, to A
Thank
Mighty
you.
Blaze. Let me welcome you all. If you have not been to Crime Time on A Mighty Blaze before, A Mighty Blaze was started at the beginning of the pandemic more than 2 years ago now by the fabulous powerhouse team of Jenna Blum and Caroline Levitt to sort of keep us together and keep us reading and keep us discovering new books like Pay Dirt Road. And it has blossomed and persevered, and we will continue here at A Mighty Blaze and Crime Time to bring you the best new authors and the best new books. again and again every week. And we're so honored that you are here to share that with us. Let me also take a quick moment. And it's kind of interesting because I thought today, should I mention Ukraine again? And then I thought, oh my golly, that is all the more reason to mention it. Our hearts go out to Ukraine. We cannot forget it. The news cycle is so awful. We have such short attention spans, and we think, and we're all on to the next thing when Ukraine is deep in this dark, horrible mess. It's a disaster, and we cannot forget about our human colleagues who are trapped there. So our hearts go out to them, and we wish them the best. And it makes us even more eager to count our blessings about being here and being able to read whatever book we want. And we hope today that is Patriot Road by the fabulous Samantha Jayne Allen. Let me quickly read you Sam's bio in case you don't know her. Here's Liz Havens and Sherry and Judy and Shannon Hansen saying, love the title. We will ask her about that. Samantha Jayne Allen is the author of Patriot Road, winner of the 2019 Tony Hillerman Prize for Best First Mystery. And you know about that. That is an astonishing honor. So we'll talk to Sam about that as well. She has an MFA in fiction from Texas State University, and her writing has been published in Ellery Queen's mystery magazine, The Common and Electric Lit. She has been raised in small towns in Texas and California, and you will be able to tell that from this book. She now lives with her husband and daughter in Atlanta, and we are thrilled to have her be here today. So, Sam, I want to talk about growing up and Texas and families and secrets and loyalty and friendship and insiders and outsiders and the tension of how we decide to do with our lives. But will you describe this book for us? I want to hear exactly what you have to say about it.
Certainly. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting to be here. Well, Patriot Road is about Annie McIntyre. She's my protagonist, and she has just graduated from college, and she doesn't have a job lined up when she graduates. And so she ends up going back home to her small hometown in Texas named Garnet. And once she's there, she's kind of just drifting. She has a lot of ambitions, but no sense of direction. And she is working as a waitress at the local cafe. And when her coworker goes missing after a party that they both attended, she becomes intrigued and starts to find a sense of purpose when she starts looking for her. Her grandfather, Annie's grandfather, was also the former sheriff of their small town. And so he works as a private investigator now. And so she teams up with him to search for her coworker, and mystery ensues.
I love it. And one of the things that you have conquered is, often when a person has a friend or a colleague or someone they know who is missing or murdered or gone, or there's a crime committed, there's no reason for them to look into why this person has had this problem befall them. And you creating Annie's grandfather, and essentially her family as a law enforcement family, gives her not only the reason to do it, but the means to do it and the sort of mentality to do it, which also brings together the family element of it. Let me tell you very quickly, if I look over here, you all, I am looking at the comments, and Anna is saying, love seeing Agnes Scott writers thriving with success. It looks like you have some college pals here, and love this premise. So that is great. But tell us about Annie. I mean, she is so articulate. She's so loyal. She's so emotional. She's sort of the peacemaker in her world between her family, which is sort of scattered and broken, her group of friends, which are scattered and broken, and sort of in her life, which is sort of scattered and broken. Tell us where Annie came from a little bit.
Sure. Well, when I sat down to write, just kind of her voice just kind of bubbled up instantly. And when I started to kind of keep writing her, and I knew, she both loved and hated her home. And I think I wanted to create somebody who is a little bit of an outsider. She didn't quite fit in when she went off to her college. She felt a little bit, like a fish out of water. And then, but in her hometown, she also was expected to go do big things, and was kind of, big fish, small pond, and then small fish, big pond when she went out of her hometown. So there's kind of that, I think that sense of discord is important to have in a main character, because, they need that push and pull that, to go on a journey of self-discovery, and that bit of discomfort is what I was going for with her. And so she would have a reason to, try to make change in her life.
Yeah, because the whole book is about change. The change that comes to her, the change that comes to her family, the change that comes to her friends, the change that comes from the outsiders to their small town. And she is of an age that she's trying to hang on to her past and explore what the possibilities of her future might be. And when her friend, the waitress, goes missing, it's sort of this possibility of the abyss of disaster that could happen if someone makes the wrong decision at the wrong time. And how is Annie supposed to know? You have a wonderful scene, I remember, where she's thinking about when she was back in college, and people are telling her in college, you're good, you're smart, you can do anything, you can go anywhere. And she's lying in bed trying to remember her hometown. Talk a little bit about how you got that yearning voice so gorgeously in her.
Oh, thank you. I think that there's always, and maybe this is me, personally too. There's always kind of that longing for, where you aren't, and especially for Annie, I think that she, because her family is such a big presence in her life, it's impossible for her to fully leave her hometown, even when she's not there, even though bad things happened in her past in the town. So she always has a sense of longing, and I think that's just part of her nature too, is to be a little melancholy, or to have that sense of yearning in her. I think that she's a bit of a romantic, and so that's.
And you can tell that from her relationships with the guys that she went to school with, and how she thinks about them and what she remembers about them. And also the secrets that she is keeping as a result of bad decisions that she may or may not have made. So you've layered this story so beautifully. Did you know what the story would be as you began to write it?
I had an idea of the ending, and without giving away too much, I wanted part of her journey to be, I knew it would end up with her realizing the parallels between her and Victoria, who's the missing waitress. And so I knew that it was building towards their two parallel tracks, like kind of converging. So I always knew that was going to be the end of the books. So I knew that that's where I wanted to take this always, but it did have some surprises along the way as I was drafting it.
And it's so much fun to read, to see where those surprises might have been. We are talking about Pay Dirt Road, the wonderful debut by Samantha Jayne Allen. And I forgot to say, I was so enchanted with talking with Sam, that we are giving, Samantha is giving away a copy of Pay Dirt Road very generously. Thank you. So every time you leave a comment, you'll be entered to win a copy of Pay Dirt Road. You can leave a comment, you can just leave applause, you can leave hooray, you can leave can't wait to read it, or you can ask a question about Pay Dirt Road, and we will try to get to as many questions as we can at the end of the program. Now that I'm holding up the cover, let's talk about that, because look at that. It's so perfectly crossroads. And that's what this book is all about. Annie is at the crossroads of her life. She comes home after college, and she is sort of surprised that she has done that. She was supposed to be out and leave and go into her new life, and yet this small town and her family and her, I don't want to say fear, but apprehensiveness have brought her home. Did you talk about this cover? Did you love it when you first saw it?
I did love it. I was so excited when I opened up the PDF in my email. I was just like, oh, this is perfect. It's I like that. I kind of noticed this later too, like the font, it looks kind of like almost like an intersection, like a little bit.
Oh, exactly.
So I thought that was really smart of the designer, and I thought that the landscape itself also looks like a bit like Central Texas, where the book is set. So it was really neat to see.
And Annie on the cover is, her whole posture is a decision. The wind is blowing and she is trying to decide which way to go, and that is this whole novel. Speaking of her touchstone, her sort of, speaking of which way to go, her guide, reluctantly or lovingly, is her grandfather. And you have created this team of Annie and her grandfather. The grandfather won't say "I love you" to her, which is such a palpable moment, but he has a nickname for her. Talk about why you linked those sort of past and present people together with the family and their decision-making process.
Certainly. I think that he too kind of represents that, uh, almost apprehension. Annie is always constantly being pulled in multiple directions because she loves him so much, and he's funny, he's interesting. He'll like throw out just kind of like little tidbits to her, but there's a remove with him, and so it's kind of again that push and pull. She feels so drawn to him and wants to be in his presence, but at the same time there is a little bit of a resistance there. He also is a drinker, and he lost his post as sheriff, and so there's some, he's not a perfect character either, and so there is that, a bit of a push and a pull between the two of them.
But she's so fond of him, and she so respects him, and she's sort of his guardian when he enters the realm of her other family. You have created this enormously entertaining family. We're talking again about Pay Dirt Road by Samantha Jayne Allen, and we are Samantha's giving away a copy of this fabulous debut today. You have created this fabulous community, starting with the core of Annie's family, each of whom has a marvelous, hilarious, wonderful personality, from the woman with the poodle who's nasty, and from the food that is served and the relationships of them all. Introduce us to a couple of those people. It's such a joy to get to know them.
Sure, thank you. That's what I was going for. I wanted, it's a murder mystery. It's a dark. There's some dark material here, but I also wanted that levity to come from the relationships that are in the book, and from Annie's great love for her family. Her best friend is her cousin Nikki, who she also lives with. They're a year apart in age, and they go to these parties together, and she's she's her closest friend, but she also is. There's a little difference between the two of them, so they do argue, but there's some. Nikki's kind of starts out as kind of the crazy, reckless one, and then I wanted them to kind of go in opposite directions as the book progressed. Annie becomes more reckless and everything, and Nikki's trying to pull her back as the investigation goes on. Her parents, Annie's dad was also a police officer, but is no longer, and he has a bit of a tense relationship with the grandfather, Leroy, and Aunt Jewel is the one that has the toy poodle, who is she's pretty sassy. I wanted her to be kind of a little mean, but in a funny way.
Well, I mean, I love how you juxtapose those quirky relationships with the darkness that and the foreboding that from moment one begins this incredibly evocative story. I know I read you last week. Oh, hey, Jill. Jill Briggs Anderson says, first time on Crime Time. If I look over here, I'm looking at the comments. First time on Crime Time and new author. Jill from Minnesota says hello. So hello, Jill. It's great to see you. The first line of your book, let me read it to you all, because it just is, this first line is everything. At night, we rode up to the old railroad tracks on the west side of town, turned the headlights off, and waited for the dead to appear. On so many levels, the ghosts of the past, the the way that they stay, the two of them together, the railroad tracks on one side or the other of the railroad tracks at night. And you can just envision that crossroad moment. Are ghosts real? What are they ghosts of? How do they affect these women? Where did that first line come from, and why did you choose it?
It was kind of funny. Like I normally like when I'm working on something, I think I have to go back and like decide where the opening will be. But that kind of really came to me almost first thing when I was working on this book. And because I wanted to capture the sense that Annie and Nikki, like you said, were feeling kind of almost the weight of all the past that is in this place for them. She not only does she have a past here, but her family has a legacy here. And I wanted that idea of ghosts to be, I mean, that's kind of what the story is about. What's haunting her and what haunts this place. And I think also too, I wanted her and her cousin to be out at this haunted place, just kind of hanging around shooting the breeze because there's nothing to do there in their little hometown. And that sense of, I think when you're in your early 20s or when you're a teenager too, you always are just kind of wanting for something kind of scary and something scary to happen. You're ready for, you're kind of borrowing trouble, I think is what they say later on. And
Yes,
I wanted to capture that.
And also, I love the borrowing trouble theme, and I love the sort of idea of whose fault something was.
Mm-hmm.
If only this had happened, if only this decision had made, if only we had done something else, if only I had made a different choice. That's also so haunting about this. And also in that scene, the railroad tracks is somebody else, somebody who's going somewhere else, someone who is not staying in town, a way out that they're not taking.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about a character who's in her early 20s that allows you this to explore that kind of emotion?
Mm-hmm. I think that I like coming of age stories, and I think that age is a perfect. I think you can kind of come of age at any age, really, or have those kinds of moments. But I think that when you're young, everything feels so heightened and so much more dramatic, And so I think that having my narrator be 22 made kind of ratcheted up the drama almost naturally. So
Yes,
it was fun.
she's so compassionate, and
Mm-hmm.
she wants things to be right, and she wants her life to be right. She sees from everything else that's going on around her that she kind of has this one chance, and if you blow the chance, you're going to turn out like some of the people who haven't turned out too well. Lynn has a really interesting comment, which is that, I think it's a balance. Sounds like the relationships are more important to the story than the solving of the murder. There's such a parallel, equal track in the book. And that's a really wise observation, Lynn, because the crime is also front and center. So let's talk about that a little bit, Sam.
Yeah, that's a great comment. Thank you. I think that actually the two, I don't want to give too much away, but I think that the relationships, Annie understanding her relationships, is actually the key to solving the mystery. And so they're really kind of almost the same thing. So much of her impetus for solving the mystery is personal growth and being around her family, being part of her grandfather's private investigative firm. But at the same time, the mystery itself takes over and becomes key to her growth. I don't think they might start out as a little bit separate motivations, but they become the same thing.
I mean, I think it was the Joseph Wambaugh quote that said, "It's not how the detective works on the case; it's how the case works on the detective."
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Don't you? And that's exactly what happens here, is that because of what happened, Annie changes. And because Annie changes, the case gets investigated more. And she has a reason. She has a reason for doing that. going back to the cover of Pay Dirt Road, which again, don't forget to leave a question or comment, because I keep saying we, but it's really Samantha who's giving away a copy of Pay Dirt Road. So very generous of her and her publisher Minotaur Books to give away a copy of this fantastic debut. The cover has this gorgeous setting, and setting in this little town in Texas is so much a part of it. There's a scene I remember where Annie and her grandfather are tromping up a hill to go somewhere, which you can talk about. And Annie is saying she wished she had worn better shoes, and it's really, really hot, and why are they going here? And, she's very unhappy about it. And then they get to the top, and there's this vista, and her whole perspective changes. Talk about how you use setting, and how much fun that must have been to use the setting to reveal personality and intent.
Sure. That I love writing a sense of place, because I think one of the reasons why I like to write is because I like to revisit memories and places that I've missed, or that I have a longing for. And in this case, I was thinking about rural Texas, and this, yeah, so that was definitely something I really just enjoy about writing, is writing setting. And I think that that part where they're going to her family's land, the land is also a really important part of the story. There's an oil company who wants to build a pipeline through the town, and Annie and her grandfather feel very strongly and very tied to the land, and so this is almost kind of a personal affront to them. The idea of there could be spills, or this concept of eminent domain, where the mineral rights could be kind of taken out from under your feet. And so that was it was important to me to have to make the landscape very well drawn, because I needed to communicate Annie's passion for it, and her love of the land.
And the local people understand the land. They understand where you can go and where you can't go, and where the water is too deep, and where the rocks are going to be, not only outside but inside. And there's, in the honky tonk bars, and in the homes with the two refrigerators on the porch, and the cat with the weeping eye. I mean, every single tiny detail of this is so evocative of this little place and this little time.
Thank you. I think that I didn't want to let any detail go to waste, because I think that all the material in your stories should always be working towards advancing the plot and advancing the story. And so, I mean, that describing having the characters all know the bar, and all have an emotional response to the different places where they are, I think reveals their character. A different person could see the honky tonk that Annie and her grandfather go to and just think it's just an old dive or something. But to them, it means a lot about their relationship to music and to each other.
And yes, and also, for instance, how the characters respond to their settings, whether they do it in a selfish way or in a generous way. The people who see, when Victoria, the waitress, disappears, there are people who are upset because, she's there. They have to work now because she's gone. And other people say, well, where is she? And this response to disaster, or looming disaster, or even threats, is very revealing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, you're exactly right. I think that's very telling how people respond to different news about somebody. And also, once it is confirmed that this young woman is missing, people respond in a way that they think, oh, is it her fault because she likes to go out and drink, and she's been, dating around? Like, is this, she was asking for it, kind of thing. I think that people's reaction to news and gossip in a place like this are yeah, very telling of who gets who gets justice, who matters, and that bothers Annie. That's one thing that she uh, finds frustrating about this place that she's come from is there's a lot of prejudice too.
And it's so interesting because there is such a theme, as we were saying earlier, of fault and blame. And then on the other track is justice and honor and doing the right thing. And that is what sort of empowers, that's what empowers Annie throughout this. Where did Pay Dirt Road, the title, come from?
Well, it actually was not my first title,
Oh,
but my agent and I were kind of like going back and forth talking about what a new title could be.
well,
And
what was the old title? Can we know? Or is it very?
sure, yeah, the old title was Yesterday Once More, which is kind of goes to the theme of the past and the ghost, and that's the name of the honky tonk that they go to. But yeah, we needed something a little bit snappier that sounded more like a crime novel. And Pay Dirt, I was thinking like, oh, there's the threat of the pipeline coming to town. So thinking about mining and money and profit, and so that's where Pay Dirt came from. And so Pay Dirt Road kind of came out of that.
It's wonderful and perfect. It reminds me, and forgive me for this tiny bit of digression, but Sam lives in Atlanta now, and I used to live in Atlanta, and I did feature stories for a television station there, sort of on the road stories, spontaneous stories. And I would go out on the road with my photographer and just look for things to do stories about. And I saw a sign that said Slab Town Road. And I said, oh, turn down that road. Something is going to be there. And when
Mhm.
we turned the corner of Slab Town onto Slab Town Road, such a good name, there was a house, a ramshackly old house, one story with a lawn, and the lawn was covered with old television sets, and the guts had been ripped out of the old television sets, and this lawn was just strewn with the carcasses of televisions, and that has been such a haunting moment for me. So when you see these landscapes in Texas in the book, it really takes you there, and the sound of the cicadas and the glare before a storm comes out so beautifully. Did you always want to write? Is this what you always wanted to do?
Yes, I think that like you mentioned like seeing details like Slabtown Road and like that haunting image of the televisions. I think that that's something that I always like I'm drawn to too. Like when I'm out and about, like I just love collecting those details and thinking about these places. So I think that's just part of my nature too, is being fascinated by stuff like that. And so yes, I've always wanted to be a writer, and think I've been inclined to gather up details like a magpie and just and save them in my journal for later, and create stories from there.
Well, it's a requirement. It is a requirement. Do you remember any books you read as a kid that were sort of formative in any way?
Oh, I guess yeah, probably. It seems like when you think about it, it's like oh, everything was such a huge influence to me. I think Nancy Drew novels were like the first chapter books that I really loved and was just obsessed with. I think those had a huge influence on me. Agatha Christie and To Kill a Mockingbird too was an early. I think that is somewhat of a crime novel too, and so that was an early influence on me too.
And you can see every single one of those in this novel. It is a crime novel with the voice. I mean, your gorgeous, absolute voice. Scout's voice in To Kill a Mockingbird and Annie's voice in Pay Dirt Road. It's really analogous, and I can see that lineage. So, and of course, it's a mystery. Of course, it's a mystery, and of course, the main character we know is going to solve the mystery. So that's really instructive. Speaking of which, though, Nancy Drew is a series. And I could see that you could make Annie a series character. Is that crazy, or is that in the works, or is that a
Not,
possibility?
not at all. I'm glad that you think that because that is what's happening.
Oh,
Yeah, I have my deadline for book two in with Annie as the main character is about 2 weeks away. So I'm wrapping up work on. It's called Hard Rain. It's the next book in a series. It's also in Garnet, also featuring Annie as the main character.
So she's, is it a spoiler to say so she stays in Garnet?
Um, well, I guess, yeah, that was part of her yeah, kind of tension at the beginning of Pay Dirt Road, but she is coming back and she is in Garnet in
We don't
this.
know if she lives there though. She may just come back to visit again.
Yeah. I don't know if that's too much of a spoiler. I think that you can tell that she really loves her hometown right from the get-go. So she is, yeah, she's working in Garnet, and yeah, that's, I don't know. I don't know how much to give away, I guess, but
Don't give anything away. We will make a mistake on the side of not giving too much away. We are Crime Time, and it's all about the story, and it's all about the solution, and it's all about the gorgeous voice of Samantha Jayne Allen in Pay Dirt Road. This is such a triumph. Let's see if we have any questions from the audience. We answered a couple of them as we went along, but let's see what we have. Such a great group here today. Pamela's here and Judy is here, who also love Nancy Drew. And Shannon was just going to ask if there would be another book. And Vicki Gregory saying a new series, yay! Everybody's asking about the new book. This is great. So you'll come back when that comes out.
okay.
Shannon wants to know: are you a plotter or a pantser, or a little of both?
Probably a little bit of both, but I do like to outline. I like to, but it's like a kind of a loose outline. I like to have. I start off. I usually kind of. I like to know generally the ending, and then I think of more of my outlines as like place markers. Like it's kind of like a map, and there's landmarks that I need to get to, but how I get to them is more. I let that be a little bit more organic. So it's kind of, it's like, okay, well, I need to get to this scene that I really want to write. So how do I figure that out? So it's not too much of a detailed outline, but it's definitely, definitely planned out.
It's interesting. Dennis Lehane used to talk about that he knew A, and he knew like H, and he knew like R, and he knew Z, the ending. And it was a question of how to get to those plot points. So it sounds like you write a little bit like Dennis Lehane, which is not a bad thing. Not
I was going to say, I'm a huge fan of his.
and, he has the same voice. I mean, of such a specific, wonderful, evocative, heartbreaking voice as you do. I mean, it's such a skill, and your book is amazing. Anissa, hooray! Nice to see you, Anissa. What was the biggest hurdle that you had to clear in writing this book? Ooh, good question.
Oh yeah, that is a good question. Oh gosh, it feels like all of it when you're doing it. I think for me figuring out, yeah, I think the middle is almost like is the hardest part of drafting for me for some reason. The beginning, it's so exciting, and it's all the fun work of setting up all the characters and their backstories and getting that sense of place in there, and then the ending, it's like once you get there, all the threads hopefully are they're all in place. So it's kind of almost like a rush to get to the end. But that middle, setting it up, that's the hardest part for me.
Oh, me too. That's why they call it the muddle in the middle.
That's about right.
And then you're like, what are these people going to do for 150 pages? And it's got to be compelling. And that's where authors lose readers, is in the middle, because they think, is something going to happen soon? And you have conquered this totally in Pay Dirt Road. There is nobody on the planet that's going to put this book down in the middle. It is always a surprise, and always a joy, and always a revelation. Do we have time we have a couple more questions? Shall we do those? Do you have time, Sam, to take a couple more questions?
Course.
Mighty Blaze. Margaret, this is great. Do you consider yourself a Southern writer with this debut? And what does that mean? I mean, compared to Larry McMurtry, you won the Tony Hillerman Prize. You've been compared to the marvelous Kathleen Kent, one of my very favorite authors. Is that Southern? Is that Texas? Is there some sort of location involved?
Sure. That's a great question. And I think, yeah, I don't know, Texas is Southern, but it's also kind of its own thing in my mind. Like I live in Georgia now, and I think of Georgia as like the deep South or Southern, and Texas is kind of a whole different region, even though, yeah, it is very Southern. And as far as like considering myself a Southern writer, I guess, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I live in the South, and my stories are set in the South, so I think that that is a accurate.
And Southern is sort of, Harper Lee and Eudora Welty and the women who wrote about real people and real families and struggles that they had, and and so character driven and so setting driven and so a product of the civilization of where they are, a product of the past. So much so, and a lot of struggling of trying to get out. So it's wonderful to think of yourself in that group of people.
Yeah,
You author, how does that feel?
Oh, it's very exciting. I You work for so long on something completely by yourself, and that you kind of start to question, like, what am I doing? Like, spending all this time making all this stuff up, and then so it's really rewarding to have people pick up what you've been working on, and to have a response to it. Even just to spend time with something that I've been working on like this is really flattering to me, because I know there's so many things to read and so many things to watch out there, and just have people talk to me about my characters that I love so much and that I've spent so much time on. It really means a lot. So this has been a dream come true.
Oh, well, long may you write. Pay Dirt Road is absolutely marvelous, and I hope you will come back and look at the questions. You've gotten so many accolades in the comments today, and it's Shannon Hansen is saying, "I'm excited to get my hands on this book," and Elizabeth Hyder is saying, "I've really been enjoying your prose." That's great, and lots of questions for you to answer in the comments. I hope you will come back and do it, and also kind of revel in the adulation. And for you. Got to do that. Shall we give away a copy of Pay Dirt Road on the Wheel of Fun? If you have put in a question or comment, you will be entered. And now the fabulous Margaret will draw for the winner. And here we go. This is so crazy. I love this.
It's so cool.
All the people who came. That's marvelous.
Oh.
And the winner is Pamela Fry Priest. Oh, that's marvelous.
Congratulations, Pamela. Thank you.
And if you will email me, Pam, or I will find you. Pam is a wonderful fan of Crime Time and A Mighty Blaze, and we are very thrilled that she has won this today. Samantha Jayne Allen's Pay Dirt Road. I will let you have the second to last word, Sam. Anything you'd like to say to all of your new readers?
Oh, just thank you for having me today and for tuning in. This has been so much fun talking with you, Hank, and I'm happy to continue the conversation. Thank you for leaving your comments. I haven't been able to look at all of them yet, just because I'm not very good at multitasking, honestly.
Well, no, and that's why I want you to come back and look at them
Yeah.
later, because it's so tempting to, when I look over here, I think, ooh, that's interesting. But I really want to talk to you about this marvelous book. Let me take a second first to say, next week we are double booked, and we love being double booked at Crime Time. Next week at 3 p.m. special time, we will talk to the fabulous Amy Impellizzeri about In Her Defense, the first in the River's Edge Law Club series. It's a fantastic legal thriller. Ooh, look at that blurb on the cover. That's from me. I love this book. Also, a book that I'm about to start reading, The New Neighbor by Carter Wilson, which is a wonderful thriller. And listen to what it says on the back. Aiden holds the winning Powerball number. Is today the best day of his life or the worst? How about that for a hook, The New Neighbor by Carter Wilson. And that will be next Tuesday at 4 p.m. So I hope you will all come and join us for both of those. Do email me if you'd like to know the inside scoop on the cover for The House Guest. Email me at hank@hankphillippiryan.com. And in about 10 seconds, everybody but Pamela Fry Priest, the winner, should run right out and get Pay Dirt Road by Samantha Jayne Allen. It is absolutely terrific. Congratulations, Sam, on your marvelous book. And until next week, you know what I'm going to say. It's always safe inside a book. So keep reading, and we will see you next time. Thank you.